Welcome to Peacebuilding Initiatives, where we explore the transformative power of dialogue, cross-cultural understanding, and collective empathy in building more peaceful and connected communities. I'm your host, José Barzola. Thank you for joining us. In today's episode, we turn our attention to Hawaii politics and the important role that young people can play in shaping their communities and civic life. Our guest is Chance Naauao Ota, a proud local voice born and raised in Kalihi. He's a graduate of McKinley High School and Kapulani Community College and is currently pursuing his Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology. Chance brings a dynamic range of experience to this conversation, serving as a neighborhood member for Liha, president of his local Lions Club, and working as a legislative staffer. In this episode, we'll explore his journey into public service, his work across multiple levels, community and government, his experience also as a former Honolulu City Council candidate for District 6. He also shares practical insights on how others, especially young folks, young people, can get involved in politics or engage meaningfully with causes they care about. So Chance, thank you so much for being here today. It's really a pleasure to have you here. And before, as we get started, I always like to start with like understanding the journey, the identity. And if you could take us back to your upbringing in Kalihi and share how your early experiences may have shaped your interest in public service.
It's a pleasure to be here, Professor. Um, really, my upbringing in Kalihi is a very humble one, to say the least. But my start in politics really began in high school, or interest in it anyways, began in high school. At McKinley, one of our science buildings was leaking rainwater. I think it was I was in say the 10th grade, or no, 11th grade, I'm sorry. It was leaking water. And then one of our science teacher at the time, what's her name, Miss Versailles, she had mentioned, oh, you know, maybe you should reach out to the local representative or state senator, who at the time was state rep Psyche, and then state senator Galataria, I believe, back then. He's an OHA trustee right now. But so I reached out, and then eventually Rep Psyche got back to me saying, oh yeah, this is a project that's been on our radar for a while, and we have put in CIP monies towards it, so it'll be fixed in 3 weeks. So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. So ultimately that was definitely the thing that got me started up in politics. But kind of wanting to take it a step further I would say would be my trying to give back to the community my family grew up in, especially in the Kilihi area.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to hear that you took him up on the offer. And, I think that's just a pivotal point as far as, when people offer something, sometimes some folks may think it's like, oh, they're just being nice, but taking that step forward and meeting people where they're at. So, what were some so would you say that's like a pivotal moment or influence that led you to pursue the path in politics and community leadership, or are there other ones along the
I'd say
way?
the one that really, I mean, it's definitely the starting point, I would say. But the one that kind of solidified it for me, like, okay, this is something that I would be interested in pursuing, would be back when I first started going around the neighborhood board for the Liliha area. There's this pothole up the road from my house where it's at the very top of the hill, and it's right on this turn that goes to the hill. So as soon as cars hit it, it would just completely mess up suspension. I remember because my dad would drive it down every every week at least, more than 4 times a week we drive that way. So I brought it up in the neighborhood board meeting, and then afterwards, I'd say about a month or 2 weeks later, it was fixed. And then the thing that solidified it for me was there was what is it? A neighbor who was up the road from us, who went to the board meeting and was there when I had brought up the concern about the pothole. And then he saw me at Foodland on Zillingham about 3 weeks after that. And he's like, "Oh, hey, thank you for bringing that up. It got fixed. I'm really glad that you did bring it up." And he was just really grateful for it. So that kind of solidified, okay, this might be something that I'd be interested in, helping people and helping my community get stuff actually done.
You really took the see something, say something initiative to the next level. That's wonderful.
Most definitely, that's definitely something my family at least instilled is that if you don't say something, then you know there's not really any reason
Yeah,
to complain about it because
that's true.
you didn't take the opportunity.
That's amazing. Um, has there been a history of family members who have been involved in politics or community leadership in your life?
Um, as far as I know, I had one uncle who had ran for board of education. Who was up for the board
Okay.
of education.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could, but that's about it.
Did you do you know him or have you gotten to know him or was that
Um,
or it's too
quite a
distant?
bit, yes, but
Okay.
it's been a distant uncle for
Okay.
been a distant uncle for quite some
Yeah,
time. So
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I always love understanding like the seeds that kind of lead us to the paths that we tend to choose. But so how has your identity as a local boy from Hawaii informed the way you approach leadership and decision making?
Um, I'd say that identity would really kind of fall under more of a collaborative mindset and more of a mindset where a lot of the ideas or the goals that I would want to see implemented for the community really ties back to stuff that really benefits the people who live here in Hawaii or at least in my community who live around there. So really that's really the sense of where I'm coming from because I know some people talk to me about stuff going on in the mainland and it's like well as important as that is, ultimately, what I found is that where the work does get done is really at the local level in regards to policy making and community building.
No, thank you. And thank you for spotlighting that because I think sometimes we get distracted by, I mean, the news for the most part, yes, they'll spotlight what's happening internationally, nationally, and sometimes they run out of time. And so they barely are able to cover locally. But in many ways it is all interconnected and it's like if you don't have I always think about like if you don't have your house in order how can you go ahead and initiate going beyond your home and so whether it's your initial physical home or like your local home like your politics around so thank you for that perspective and taking those initiatives up so entry into politics for our listeners today so getting involved in politics can feel a bit intimidating, especially if you're not like a legacy generational person that's been doing this. And it doesn't sound like in your case that was the case. So what was your first step and how did you navigate that initial entry?
Like I said in the beginning, the first step was really just reaching out to local area representatives, bringing up an issue, and seeing what can be done. And then ultimately, though, my first actual step would be participating in the neighborhood board, which definitely makes things a bit easier because it's a very local and very grounded sounding board versus it going to testify at the city council or over here at the state capitol can be quite intimidating for some folks, myself included. So
Okay.
I would say definitely getting involved in
So it's a good
your
stepping
local
stone I'm
neighborhood
hearing.
board or other even other community organizations like Neighborhood Security Watch might be something as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. So for those, so the neighborhood board, really great first step. It's also, I imagine, it's your neighborhood board. I doubt that you can run for a neighborhood board for a community that you don't, a neighborhood you don't live in. So I imagine a lot of the people on the board or people coming to the meetings are people or many times maybe have known you since you were little. So there is, in a way, I find, especially with communities, there's a sense of pride when, especially when you see young people coming on board and it's one of the biggest critiques we always hear about especially nationally it's like oh who's in congress it's like a lot of people who are retired or post retirement and so to see youth taking on this initiative so early on is inspiring so thank you what challenges did you encounter early on and how did you work through them
Um, It's a good question. But I'll say some definite challenges I can recall right off the top of my head is trying to get that foot in the door. I mean, for me, it
Trying
was a little
tr
easier than
trying to
um,
get the what you said? Sorry.
or trying to get that foot in the door.
Oh, foot in the door.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
the foot in the door. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought for me it was a little easier because there's a vacancy on my neighborhood board. So um, there was only myself and one other person vying for that seat, and there's actually two vacancies, so it ended up working out. But come re-election season, then it's kind of one of those things where you'd have to build that not necessarily reputation, but that base of work that you have done for the community and the people you know. Because especially in Hawaii, it is quite a bit about who you know, the relationships you have, the rapport you're able to build, um, can definitely help get what you want to move forward going. Yeah.
Thank you. And for what kind of advice would you have for those who may feel disconnected from politics? What helped in your case to make it feel accessible and relevant to you? I mean, you've spoken a little bit about, little touch points here or there. But yeah, just wondering, would you suggest people to like start reading the newspaper or whether it's online or paper format or watching the news? Like, I'm just wondering, yeah, what helped to make politics feel more accessible and relevant to you?
Um, Politics in general, at least to my understanding, is what makes um, quite a few things move. So I would say definitely reading the newspaper is a way to stay in the loop of what is going on locally as well as nationally. Because, I mean, like I said, politics this past session, there was quite a few bills moving through the legislature that would affect essentially public schools down here in Hawaii.
Mhm.
There's especially a complex area superintendent bill that came up that was pretty controversial. And then there's quite a few bills that were moving through that would include like free school meals, cell phone bans in our local public schools. So it's really finding what interest you have or what concerns you have even that do come up in the community, and then from there just talking to people about it, and if need be the easiest way to get into um, sort of that political realm or mindset would be to reaching out to your local state representatives or state senators or even city council members, and then seeing, I have this concern or I'm interested in this, and then seeing what can or be done from there.
Thank you. Shifting a little back to you work in a neighborhood board and community engagement. Can you explain the role of a neighborhood board member and why it matters for local communities?
The neighborhood board member is, well, just kind of set a little bit of context. There's a total of, I'd say, I want to say 51 neighborhood boards in the city and county of Honolulu. Um, and then each board represents a decent chunk of um, let's say a state house district. But the
Mhm.
purpose of a neighborhood board member is to serve as that community liaison or neighborhood liaison, if you will, to not only the state representatives, state senators, elected officials, but also government department heads or even city and county department heads too. Because those are folks that do attend the meetings. And when they do attend, then we can voice, concerns that we have heard or we've seen in the community directly to them. So it's definitely a very, very useful tool that I would like to see more community members get engaged.
Thank you. Thank you for that. What are some key issues that you currently see that you're currently seeing in the Lalika community?
In our community, a lot of the typical issues that have come up in the past are in the forefront, such as homelessness, public safety for sure, and then um, right now, what I've been seeing recently come up is a lot about traffic safety and then traffic
Mm,
issues or traffic concerns um, in our area. Because of the Lilia area, um, it is one of those areas where as we have multi-generational homes, the area does become congested in some sort of way. So
mm,
parking becomes uh, definitely a concern at times. And on top of parking, also or with the parking concern also comes with the high amount of traffic that flows through our area.
mm.
So issues like speeding come up, or even crosswalks that we feel should be in place. However, as we all know, it does take time for things to happen. So definitely community safety, or rather traffic safety, is one big key point this year.
Thank you. And how can everyday residents effectively engage with neighborhood boards and make their voices heard?
Um, Everyday residents can always come out or go down to their local neighborhood board. Whenever that happens, we have all neighborhood boards across the island have monthly meetings, and to see not only what your neighborhood board might be, or your neighborhood board might be, or even see when their meetings are going on, as well as the minutes and agendas for past and future meetings. They can visit honolulu.gov/NCO, and it'll take them to the neighborhood commission office website where they can find that information.
Thank you. Thank you. Shifting a little to legislative work and policy insight, as a legislative staffer, what does your day-to-day work look like behind the scenes
Um, as
that you can
legislative
speak of?
staff
Yeah.
that I can speak of, yes,
Yeah.
it's starting now. But a lot of the work includes really a lot of the background stuff like preparing briefs or respondents, or even hearing notes for whatever legislators that we work for, as well as any other task or um, I guess priority items that the legislators need help or assistance with. And we would pretty much help them with all the background, a lot of the background.
So just for folks to get it like a picture, how many legislative staffers are there per legislator, or does it change depending upon the responsibilities or?
It definitely depends on the legislator's responsibility, how much legislative staff they have. I will say that some offices, especially offices where the legislatures may not be committee chairs, their office can, at least during a session anyways, their office staff can range from anywhere between 3 to 4. And then
Wow.
if one is a committee chair, then especially for the committees that have more bills that flow through them, that office could easily range from, I'd say, 8 to 12 staff.
Wow. That's a
It,
lot
it
of
really depends on
a
responsibility.
lot of personalities. That's pretty amazing. Thank you for that. What would you say are some misconceptions people have about how laws or policies are created in Hawaii?
Um, there's quite a few that do come up throughout the workday, I will say. However, the ones that I've mainly seen, and one I've been guilty of myself in the past before entering this arena, is that policy making and laws, or how we go about creating them, is a very one-stop kind of deal. It's a very fast process when in reality, it ultimately is not. Um, like, and this is something I've heard before, where a lot of times the first time an idea gets brought up, the first session it is brought up, it's about laying the groundwork for it, making sure that all of the pieces are in line, all of the people who are should be brought in the conversation are brought in, and they discuss ideas and work out how the bill should look, how the policy will should look. So it does take time, and not only that, but also throughout the legislative session, um, there's a process that the bills do go through. See, for me, I thought that bills is just a one-stop kind of thing. You hear it in one committee, and then it goes off to the governor's desk one, which isn't the case, where it goes through two committees in their respective chamber. Then they go to the other chamber to get heard in that chamber as well. That way, you hear both House and Senate perspectives, and then it goes to conference where House and Senate settle their differences, and then from conference, it gets voted on again to make sure everyone's okay with the draft that came out of that conference committee, and then it goes to the governor's desk, where the governor ultimately has the decision to either sign it into law or veto it. It's definitely a process.
I was trying to like keep track of how many steps that was. I think after step 6 or 7, I lost track. But that's. I mean, it sounds like a thorough process to make sure everyone's voice is taken in, careful consideration. So it doesn't sound as though it's like rash, decisions being made left and right kind of thing, which
Right.
is really reassuring. Thank you.
Yes.
So, how do you balance community needs with political realities when working within the government systems?
Um, it's a good question. Um, because when community needs do come up, and a lot of times community needs do they come up during the interim part of the time when we're off session, or not,
Mm,
but when the legislators off legislation, yeah, legislature is off session, and then from there, that's essentially the time where senators or representatives do start looking at legislation that might help their community. But in regards to speaking on the political reality of it, um, that balance can, that, at least as far as I understand, it takes a very special person to find that balance. And on top of that, to work with others to kind of help make community needs and political realities kind of meet in the middle. Because I mean, we've seen in the past that good bills do come out of, or good legislation rather, does come out of this building, and at times legislation that people may not be big fans of also comes out of the building. But like I said, there is a balance that you know kind of needs to be found to make it work. Because a lot of the times when good legislation does come up, and sometimes it falls through. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that um, either the public hasn't been, or not necessarily the public, but that isn't brought to the forefront because it can be
mm.
public knowledge. It's just a matter of if willing to pursue that knowledge. I guess I would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Um, Shifting a little to your experience for running for office, you ran as a candidate for Honolulu City Council. Uh, what motivated that decision? How did you know it was the right time?
Um, the current city council member from my district was they termed out pretty much. And what that means is that they served the mandatory amount of terms that they can serve as a council member. So that was an open seat, and I figured
Mm,
it'd be worth a shot, especially being as young as myself. Although, granted, with the youth comes inexperience, but also differing ideas, I will say. Um, but in regards to the motivation, it's like I really do, for me, want to give back to the community I grew up in and was raised in. Because prior to running, I was in fact, I worked at the local elementary school that I went to before, and
full
then
circle moment.
no, exactly, full circle moment. So kind of seeing those community members as well as um even people I know from my job back then at the Kalihi YMCA, which is part of that city council district, which is kind of one of those things where if I can help in any way I can to make things easier on their end and to especially fix our roads, our infrastructure, because that's one of my key things, then I figured it was worth a shot, especially being so young. Because for me personally, I would not want to be in politics for as long as others might be. Um, I'd rather see what I can get done and then do my best, and then if just go from there. And if it's time to pass on the torch, then it is what it is.
Yeah. Thank you. What did you learn about yourself and the political process through that experience?
Um, I learned that you do need funds to run for any position.
Ah, that little thing called money. Jeez.
I'm not saying it takes, what is it, to get monies from like super PACs. I know that's something in the news, but even just reach out to your community and seeing even $5 for every so many people does go on. So I'd say definitely fundraising to get not only your name out there, but also what you're looking to give back to the community would be one thing. In regards to learning about myself, I didn't realize how outgoing I was until I ran. Because in reality, I see myself as more introverted. And so going through that process, like, okay, maybe I may not be. Um, but it's also one of those things where I will say that this work is a very demanding kind of field where um, or for me, I feel like one should give their all if you are going to go into this job, because you're not only working for concerns or ideas that you have, you're also working on concerns and ideas for your whole community, your whole district, whoever you represent, which is for that district anyways, it was about, I want to say, I might be getting this number wrong, close to about 10,000 people, give or take.
Wow.
So yeah.
You know, thank you. Thank you. I, I could see the introvert that you're referring to, and I can uh, connect with that experience. I will say that I think what I have found is that most introverts, I think for the right reason, the right cause, you know, you, you choose to be vocal. You choose to do what needs to get done. I feel like our passions kind of guide us. It's like I always think about it as like anyone who's in service, whether retail, medicine, right? Like, um, there's going to be extroverts and introverts, but like you're doing lots of customer service, you're going to be talking a lot. So if you really do enjoy what you're doing, it's not hopefully too extraneous, but I imagine you find ways to like re-energize on the off times. So it's always good to have those practices for wellness along the way. But how did the campaign shape your perspective on leadership, service, community expectations?
Um, it I would say that it shaped my perspective in that it's one of those things where my mindset before was, oh, I could, go through this process on my own if need be. But in reality, during that campaign, I found myself thinking, it really does take a team to do that kind of work, to connect with the community. Because at the end of the day, you can't connect with everybody in the community during that kind of campaign. But if you have a team, a solid team behind you, helping you with from basic responsibilities, such as keeping track of finances, to even just going door to door with you. It is a really important kind of thing. So for me, that definitely shaped my perspective in that. As much as a leader can do something on their own, they shouldn't, because when you work as a team or when you have a team behind you, the job becomes a lot easier and you can get a lot more done. So,
Thank you. So shifting well, a little bit about youth engagement in politics, which is what we're kind of talking about. Many young people feel sometimes disengaged or disillusioned with politics. What kind of, what would you say to them?
um, politics can be uh, quite a tedious process. Um, However, it does not it is, but it does affect a lot of what we experience in our everyday lives. Like I brought up the cell phone ban. If that happened, then students up to the age of 16 wouldn't be able to use their cell phones in school, unlike rules right now where it's a little more lenient. Um, on top of that, even free meals. Um, if you're getting free meals currently in your schools, then policy making there is a possibility that those free meals may not be there next year, next school year, or they might be, and they might be open even more of your fellow classmates. But ultimately, I would say the thing that really you should look at in regards to politics is what concerns or what issues that you find important to you, and then really stick with those things. Because there's a lot of ways to get engaged in politics. And it's just kind of going off the top of my head. There's the Hawaii Youth Commission, which it's a group of folks between the ages of 16 to about 22, I want to say 22, where they provide pretty much youth voice on legislation or on policies that they find important for the state of Hawaii. And then as an extension of that, there's also the Honolulu Youth Commission, which I would definitely recommend checking out if you're interested in politics, or even working at the Capitol for one session. I'd say you definitely don't understand the process until you're actually in it. Even myself, being a participant of the neighborhood board for 6 years before jumping into the legislative process, I had no idea. I can definitely say I had no idea about how the process truly works until jumping into it. But even just engaging with your local volunteer organization like the Lions or the Leos, or even Future Farmers of America or the Junior Chamber of Commerce, are definitely other ways to get involved in politics, which is ultimately just community building, in my opinion.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And referencing the Hawaii State Youth Commission, I recall it was only a couple of years ago that they got started. So I was really thankful that, that initiative, or was it, I think 2018 it got approved, and was it 2021? So maybe like 5 years ago was when it finally launched, which is amazing. I'm not sure if other states across the nation have a youth commission, if it was modeled after that. But I do remember, especially before the pandemic, there was a good group of youth going down to the legislature. They were a lot of the work they were doing was about climate awareness, and I think that might have been. I know there was some overlap there, but thank you for pointing that out. So besides the youth commission, which what are some other realistic, accessible ways for young people to get involved, even if they're just starting out? Or whether if there's anything else. I know you mentioned the youth commission already, but
Well, youth can definitely run for, depending on the definition of youth. I would say anyone who's 18 and up can run for the neighborhood board.
oh,
That's
18.
when
Okay,
yeah,
wow.
I'd say that's when I got started around the age, yeah, about 18, 19.
So you're a senior in high
I,
school, or you're finishing up high school.
well,
There you go.
I think I was getting started in my first semester of college at that point
Wow, that's
because I
great.
graduated. Yeah,
Do
but I
you
would say
think
definitely.
sorry, I was just going to
uh,
say, sorry, really quickly. So you're getting started in your first semester in undergrad, and you're running slash joining the neighborhood board, which most people, when they're getting started in the first semester of college, they're going through this already transition of high school to college life. Do you feel as though neighborhood board centered you a little bit? Like you were like, I'm too busy to like get distracted. I need to focus. Like, yeah, I'm just wondering what that was like.
Um, I mean, the nice thing about neighborhood board is that it is only meetings only take place once a month, so you
Okay.
really have to go down in person once a month, which isn't too bad. And then the other 29 or 30 days of the month, then I have time to focus on school as well as I was working part time at that time too. Uh, but I guess you can say neighborhood board helped to center me a little bit in that. Okay, This is
Yeah.
something I want to do, but at the same time, um, if you do want to continue to pursue this kind of political career, then school is something you should definitely finish.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there some other tips on like how young leaders could build credibility and trust within their communities, especially, before 18, before you can run for that neighborhood board?
Um, One way that I would definitely recommend is to join your local or your area or even your school. Actually, that would be the best place to be your school volunteer organizations. Like I know many
Mm,
schools have their Leo clubs or Future Farmers of America clubs, and really choose one concern in your area. Like even if it's a park that you know might you might see and it's like very unkempt, um, to join your local or your school Leo club and then recommend that as a project, and then see if you guys can do a park cleanup. That is definitely one way to build up credibility in your community because not only do you get to give back to your community, but on top of that, community members also come out and see and notice that, oh, young people are actually thinking about, next steps and taking care of places they go. So that's definitely one recommendation.
thank you. So shifting a little to power, responsibility, community we've been talking about. In your view, what does responsible leadership look like in Hawaii today?
Um, I would say proactive and collaborative leadership is what I would view responsible leadership to look like. Especially nowadays with the Kona lows we experienced.
Mm,
Um, we, I believe us as a state realized that we could have done a better job in preparing for these kinds of natural disasters. And I think taking a more proactive step and not only that, but also with both state and city departments being a little more collaborative would definitely be a very responsible stepping stone to heading towards that more preventative and disaster ready kind of mindset.
no, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think in my experience, I've always found that I don't want to blame it on human nature, but I always find that we tend to be more reactive than exactly like you said, proactive. And sometimes I wonder if it's just a matter of like, we have so many things that we're juggling and we're just, reacting to one thing or the other. It's like you're playing tennis or volleyball, you're just, or dodgeball maybe, and trying to dodge things. But as opposed to like being able, as they say, like take a pause, take a step back, trying to observe, well, what is maybe the culture that's perpetuating this? What are we missing? What are the pieces that we're not looking at? Because many times in the busyness of it all, we may only see what's being brought to us, and then there might be parts of the community we may not be able to fully focus, and it is part of the community as a whole, but there's blind spots along the way. And so yeah, I always constantly exploring that in the work that I do. How can we go about taking those steps? So how about you, how do you stay grounded and accountable to the community you serve?
To stay grounded and accountable in the community that one serves. Um, I'd say you just have to continuously be in that community and be part of it. Because at the end of the day, when an elected official does, they are elected to serve that community. They're answerable to that. So I'd say just really being a part of that community in any way you can be is definitely a way to stay grounded and accountable. Because even if what I would say, what I appreciate is when elected officials are a, they're not afraid to be a part of their communities every day, kind of go about, so whether it be from visiting school festivals or even if you just see them out and about shopping at a local supermarket. It's definitely, for me, I'd say it's a pretty good indicator if they're well grounded person.
Thank you. Um, So what role would you say does culture, relationships play in political leadership?
I will say I don't exactly have the best grasp on that aspect of the rest of
Okay.
political. Um, but what I will say is, in this kind of realm, it is about at times who you know,
Mm,
uh, but it can also be about the culture that you might put out there, so, especially in regards to if you're very your mannerisms are very respectful and they kind of do not fit in, but you can give
mm,
back or add to the
yeah.
culture that you're going into, and it definitely be something helpful for you because it'd be beneficial for both sides.
Thank you. Shifting a little now to advice, pathways forward. For someone listening right now who may want to make a difference but doesn't know where to start, I know we talked about a couple different spaces, but what would you say is like the first step? Attend your neighborhood board, I guess checking out the community service at your local schools. Just wondering if there's any last advice you might have, things that maybe came up.
Um, no, I'd still just reiterate to really see what interests you or what interests or concerns are important to you, and then from there, yes, I'll definitely say to see if there's any local community service or volunteer organizations who do take part in um, dealing with that or dealing with what you find important. And then if if, honestly, if you that is something that you feel that the neighborhood board can help with, then feel free to reach out because at least from my what I've seen, neighborhood boards are always happy when people do come down and they speak about what is important. So,
Okay. Um, what gives you hope when you think about the next generation of leaders? I mean, you're pretty young yourself already, but just I don't know if you've thought about.
I a little background on me. I used before I kind of came to the square building, I like to call it. Um, I worked at the Clee YMCA working with youth programming as well as teen programming.
Mm,
And what I've seen recently, especially within the past 4 years, is that youth nowadays have become more actively engaged in policy making or even just actively engaged in the community. Now, whether that might be because of social media or even, which is something that I would say never truly affected my years in high school or even middle school, or if it's because their family might be involved or they might talk about it at the dinner table, they might hear over the news. That is something that gives me hope in that they are getting more actively engaged in
mm.
this kind of stuff. Because, like I said again, politics does affect everything that, or every facet of life as we know it.
Thank you. Uh, Looking ahead, what changes would you like to see in Hawaii's political landscape?
Um,
I know
that's a
we
good
talked a little.
question.
I know we talked a little bit about
Yes.
taking proactive steps. Yeah, just in and if that's your answer, the proactive steps, that's quite okay. Just wondering if there was anything else. I
Well,
imagine there's
that's what
layers.
I'm trying to see myself, especially after going through this legislative session. I would definitely say more proactive leadership. However, as we said, there is that careful balance of political realities as well as um, government fiscal responsibility and then community needs that needs to be met. Um, I would say so long as our leaders take those things into account, as well as finding a way to be proactive so that we don't have to do more work than we might have to. So that's something I'd like to see.
Thank you. Thank you. Where can people learn more about your work or get connected to opportunities for involvement? I know you mentioned a couple websites, but yeah, just wondering if you have anything else to share.
There's not necessarily a website for me. Folks are more than open to reach out to me at my my personal email, I guess. Yeah, that
Okay.
one. It's
Okay.
gonna be
Thank
at
you.
cnaauao808@gmail.com. If you have any
Thank you.
questions regards to how to get involved.
Thank you. Thank you for uh, sharing your story, your insights, your deep commitment to community. Uh, it's your journey is a powerful reminder that politics is not just about institutions; it's about people and the relationships, really, and everyday choices we make to show up for one another. Your work also shows us that civic engagement, when grounded in care, responsibility, becomes really a form of peace building in action. So, thank you for taking those proactive steps. I I have to say, from getting to know you and having this conversation today, it is inspiring to see how, just at a young age, you were like, oh yeah, let me, and then you just were taking the right steps to see the best way to be of service to community. And so I hope, to our listeners, they take those lessons with them from this conversation. Meaningful change often begins at the local level, whether it's attending a neighborhood board meeting, engaging in dialogue, supporting a cause you believe in. Getting involved doesn't just require having all the answers, and you don't have to have the answers. That's part of that collaborative approach that you talked about. It simply starts with showing up, stay informed, stay engaged, know that your voice matters, because you know being silent is the alternative, and we've seen what that does. And so thank you so much for joining us on Peace Building Initiatives. Until next time, take care of yourselves, each other, and let's continue building more just connected and peaceful communities together. Thank you so much, Chance, for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Professor. Appreciate that.